Oh my God, you guys come and sit down and shut the door. Fat Joe has just been accused of Diddy like crimes. And baby, this one is a doozy. What is going on? Remember, we said that Diddy was going to set the level, and if the prosecution can put him away, there's going to be so many other people to fall, babe. Next up on the roster is Fat Joe Terror Squad. Y'all, let me run this down really quick for you because this breakdown is ridiculous. Okay, listen. Here's everything that's in play. I had to take notes. There's so much. Let me run it down. Then we're going to go on live and read the lawsuit, the main laws by RICO. They are trying to get him on a RICO Act, TVPA, Tracking Victims Protection Act, federal wire and mail fraud, and unjust enrichment, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Baby, let's get into this. All right, so the plaintiff is Terrence Dixon. Again, we're going to go in deeper, but we got to talk about this. The plaintiff is Terrence Dixon. He served as Fat Joe's
and no longer
hype man,
has a
writer,
voice who will
vocalist, tour
pursue
manager,
justice
and
for her
bodyguard from
accusation.
2005 to 2022.
As of the taken against
he claims
Diddy,
he was never
no
properly
expansion of the
credited or
investigation,
paid, despite
no
contributing
isolation
to multiple
orders,
hits and
no
international
equipment
tours.
access,
And when I
no
said that, I
suspension
said,
of attorney
okay, so this
communication.
sounds like standard fodder. And I have been hearing whispers about what was going on in Terror Squad. But get this, he also alleges psychological abuse, financial theft, smuel, coercion, and violent intimidation. Who are the defendants? All right, they're saying Fat Joe Joseph Cardina is the ringleader. Pistol Pete Torres is the muscle and enforcer. Richard Jose is a business manager and internal enforcer. And there's Erica Moriera is a fake lawyer who set up the shell companies for laundering money. Oh my God. And get this, and Sneaker Addict Touring LLC and Slate Incorporated, the corporate front for fraud. They also got Rock Nation in here, but they're saying Rock Nation just benefited from the touring and whatnot. The main RICO is Fat Joe. Okay, so here's the allegations. I'm Pete Labor and Songfet. So Terrence claims that he co-wrote and performed 20 or more songs. We All the Way Up, Congratulations, Ice Cream, etc. He was allegedly promised 15% of all earnings and credit, but he received nothing. Instead, he got ghost contracts and a forged split sheets were submitted to BMI ASCAP, cutting them out. I think that's the record. People, hold on. Y'all, I know we're starting slow, but it's about to get crazy. Money laundering and tax fraud. Fat Joe allegedly collected hundreds and thousands in cash and didn't report it. He used fake W-2s to inflate Terran's income on IRS records to hide wage theft. The sneaker store UPNYC operated as a front, with employees flaunting luxury despite low official salaries, and defendants filed for fraudulent PPP loans using Sneaker Addict. Touring, there's also tour exploitation and financial control. They said he was booked for over 200 shows, but only paid $250 for per show, while the contract showed that they paid him $3,000. His per diem of $100 a day was routinely stolen. He slept in lobbies while others flew first class, and Fat Joe allegedly took $30K Live Nation check meant for Terrence and used it to pay his own taxes. But y'all, let's get into this. The smeal, coercion, and control, baby. This is a detailed unpacking. Now, there is a section of the lawsuit that alleges that Fat Joe used SMMX as a method of psychological domination, humiliation, and subjugation. These weren't isolated incidents, he's claiming, and they were rooted in consensual groupie culture. This was an alleged systematic pattern of sexual coercion used to break and control Terrence. Here's how it unfolded. Okay, now this is alleged based on his complaint, but let's get into this. Okay, he said he wasn't just performing music, he was allegedly forced to perform smectily, not for his own gratification, but to maintain access to income, travel, shelter, and safety. Fat Joe allegedly made it clear that compliance equals survival. You refuse and your flight home gets canceled. You refuse and you sleep in the lobby. You refuse and you lose your spot. Okay, so there was performance-based humiliation in one specific incident in Miami. After a show, Fat Joe allegedly brought a woman to his hotel suite. He ordered Terrence to sleep with her in front of a group with the bathroom door open, shouting, "Get your D hard, Terrence," or they're calling him. Members of the crew, including Pistol Pete and JB, reportedly watched and laughed. One joked, "Yo, Joe, I'm not about to stand here and watch this ninja's D." Terrence allegedly did not want to participate, but he felt he had no choice. Also, there was surveillance and direction. These Performances were sometimes filmed, sometimes directed. The environment was described as under surveillance. There were security cameras, management staff. They even said Roc Nation's extended team were allegedly aware. Joe was said to have orchestrated who TA would sleep with, watched, and sometimes gave verbal instructions. Is this not sounding like Diddy and Cassie and used the presence of others to enforce psychological shame? Now, he did say there was retaliation for refusal. On at least one occasion, Terrence refused to comply
and no
with
longer
the
has a
coerced
voice
meme
who will
act.
pursue
In response,
justice for her
Fat Joe
accusation.
canceled his flight, left
As of the
stranded
taken
overseas,
against Diddy,
and cut off access
no
to
expansion
money
of the
or
investigation,
shelter, making
no
him
isolation
fully
orders,
dependent on Joe's
no
approval
equipment
to
access,
survive. And
no
there was also
suspension of
creepy
attorney
language
communication.
of ownership. He alleges that Joe made it clear that his bodies and his actions were not his own. The expectation was, be spectrally available, command never say no, or you're out. And this wasn't about pleasure, it was about enforcing loyalty through humiliation. Now listen, these actions are framed in the lawsuit as textbook SMEX, trafficking under coercion, especially the forced performance under threat, inability to leave due to physical control, repetition. Over time, he claimed over 4,000 acts he was forced to perform, and the occurrence across state lines, intentional, you guys. He also claimed about lining him up. They said that when he started to complain, Fat Joe attempted a violence or a hint. Now let's talk about the retaliation attempt after he began asserting his rights publicly. Now there's supposedly an audio recording of the setup. The lawsuit includes a recorded call between Pistol Pete, Fat Joe's enforcer, and a man named Percy, a mutual contact of both Pete and Terrence. Here was the plan. Pete allegedly asked Percy to get in touch with TA and con Terrence and convince him of the meetup so the Enterprise could deal with him, interpreted as a violent ambush. These are the key quotes from the audio. Yo, he can't come around the hood. He needs to be dealt with accordingly. Hood is going to bring him to me. Like they always done, Ninja's going to bring it right to where you at. He implies that TA violated Joe by speaking out, and retaliation was expected. And when Percy refused to help line TA up, Pete replied, don't ever tell me. Bring a ninja to you, I'm not never doing that. Of course, lining up, I don't know. I guess that speak for putting a hit out on someone. So was there a real attempt? Well, from the lawsuit, there was no actual attack occurred. This recording clearly outlines an active conspiracy that set him up for a potential assault. Even worse, the threats were specific. They were targeted, and they were made by someone, Pete, with a known history of that's his enforcer, of carrying out Joe's violent orders. This lawsuit doesn't just talk about verbal abuse, but a predicate act under RICO and witness tamper statutes. You guys, what is going on over in Terror Squad? You guys, what is going on again? There was psychological coercion that they cited. Fat Joe's mantra is nobody leaves Terror Squad in one piece. Reference past violence, like the slashing of Cuban Link as a warning, and TA was threatened with being stranded overseas, losing work, and being publicly shamed. Y'all, what the Enterprise culture code words and enforcers the crew used coded terms like ketchup, that meant slashing Mandan, that meant main man. What is that? That meant M people. Cow pie, that meant slap, and Corbin meant put in a casket. Enforcers like Pistol Pete and Rich Player were used in these recorded conversations, and the culture functioned like a criminal hierarchy, with orders, punishment, and obedience. You guys, what is going on again? This is the most shocking thing. TA claims he was forced in over fourth, orchestrated and watched by Fat Joe. What? Okay, these are all alleged. We don't know if it happened. I assume if they're making a lawsuit, they have proof. But what is going on? Kanye allegedly likes the watch. Diddy likes the watch, and now they put in Fat Joe's name on the list. Refusal led to retaliation, like stranding him in Germany or Spain without tickets or lodging, and these acts were put on a humiliation ritual, culture for control and subjugation. There was also exhibitionism and surveillance in one incident. Oh my god. Yeah, he used it as a tool of discipline and power. Also, he was scrubbed from linear notes. I guess that's music. Credits, credits, and music metadata deprived of future licensing sync and publishing revenue, and estimated over 600,000 in royalties, and fake contracts were backdated to make it seem like Joe was the sole creator again. After he's out, Pistol Pete and Rich allegedly plotted an ambush to mutual. A flame named Percy refused to line him up and recorded a phone call with the threats. And again, the quotes include, "He violated Joe. He needs to be dealt with." Now here's the last thing that I do want to say is very, very Diddy Ike, and need to talk about this. The lawsuit alleges Fat Joe had sexual relations with 3 underage women. We're going to refer to them as minions. One minion was a 16-year-old in New York City, received cash and favors in exchange for sloppy. Minion 2, 15-year-old overseas, allegedly flown to Miami and give Wits a BBL, a 15-year-old, and Minion 3 met at 15, allegedly housed by Joe, and mentioned in lyrics, "She's my mama." The song "She's My Mama" allegedly describes grooming of a 6-year-old, pressuring her to oral smacks, and trafficking language, holding rugs, flying her around, and pimping her. TA claims lyrics match the Minion 3's real experience, and say the girl actually confirms it. They said Fat Joe allegedly covered up statutory rape by producer Dre of Cool, and Dre reportedly confessed to having sex with a 15-year-old singer K. Rose, and Joe allegedly used burner phones to silence the family, and K's career disappeared. Y'all, these are some serious allegations. We're gonna go live later on today to read through the whole lawsuit, but at the end of the day, maybe that's why everybody's being so quiet, and people are really, really nervous, because it wasn't just Diddy out there acting a fool. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think in the contact. Let me know what you think. We're gonna go live later and talk about it. But yeah, this is a Tyrone Blackburn special. This lawsuit is over. This lawsuit is packed wall to wall with stuff. And all I got to say, why didn't Joe settle this? We saw what happened with Diddy when he let lawsuits just go. And who got involved? Why is that? Why didn't he settle? Why in this climate would you want that? I hope to God none of this is true. But they say they got receipts, they got audio recordings, and they even got some of those little girls actually on record admitting, yeah, it's true. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to y'all